right in there, which is great. It's game number 2, same lobby. We're going to play 5 games with this group of players to see who the top 4, and then we're going to play 5 games with our other group of players to see who their top 4 is going to be, and that's going to determine our final 8 for tomorrow. But it is a super dense galaxy for game number 2, and so that means everybody gets a force of nature at 3-1. You get that extra spot on your board. Becca, you're joining us for this game. How do you like to approach this galaxy in particular? Like, what are your favorite comps to play on this one?
Well, I don't know about my favorite comps, but I just know I'm excited to watch players like of this caliber playing on this galaxy, just because then you get to see them decide whether or not they need to get to 8 or they need to get to 9 or not, because they do get the extra unit, so they can fill out their comp earlier because everyone's guaranteed a fawn. So I do want to see, I'm excited to see how people decide whether or not they're going to level or roll on 8.
Agreed,
yeah,
and there's
cool,
some comps that you can sort of look to lean into. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
It sounds like we got a little bit of
yeah. I was just saying there's some comps that you can look.
This
to
is the
lean
trials
into.
and yeah. This is the trials and tribulations of online casting. Welcome to 2020. So sorry about the awkwardness, guys. But yeah, you were saying Primal.
Yeah, let's try that again. So there's some comps you can look at to lean into on this galaxy that really benefit from the fawn. For example, if you're playing Cybers, you can add 4 Chrono at 9, which is really, really strong endgame. If you're playing Mech, you can choose to just roll at 7, because at level 8 is when your comp comes online from a synergy standpoint. So I think this galaxy shows who understands the comps really at a deep level and understands, okay, I can actually forego spending this 50 gold to go level 8 and just roll now, because I'm going to spike immediately if I roll now versus later.
Yeah. So we're taking a look at our Lobby 1 standings as well, and as you can see, it's pretty, I would say this is a pretty forgiving format for day 1, honestly, because there's no drop from first to second in terms of points. There's no drop. It's not like as bad as it has been in I would say most tournaments this year. You have that drop off, so less pressure in game 2.
Kind of curious to know if you guys like that there's no drop off. I personally feel like there should be a little bit of extra oomph, I guess, for getting first in the lobby. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I prefer it too, but I think the important thing in this is the first kind of real year of TFT esports, so I think the important thing above all else is to experiment and try a bunch of different things and kind of figure out, you know, what works best. And you know, because TFT is still an esport kind of in its infancy, that's kind of important, I think. But yeah, I prefer a little bit of a drop-off too. But like I said, better that we just kind of test things out. So, Bobe going up against Voltairix now. And the Aurelia 2 with the Ionic Spark early on is pretty nice.
Yeah, Alawi too.
Yeah, Alawi too. I'm thinking, I've got Aurelia on the brain now, don't I?
I do too, actually. I'm still thinking about the last game, and I'm still curious what would have happened. I think the Victor 3 is just too strong, though. Okay.
I agree. Yeah.
So who do you... I guess after last game, I'm kind of looking at Voltairix as the favorite. I just think he plays so flexibly and aware. Who do you think is going to take this lobby, if you had to guess now?
It's so early. That's so unfair. But
I know, right?
I think, yeah, you knew what you were asking. But
I'm putting you on the
Voltairix
spot. I'm
is strong.
sorry.
No,
Yeah,
it's okay. Yeah. I'm not afraid of any question. All right, so I think Voltairix is really strong, but Force of Nature really comes down to who's better at managing the opportunity to put in like little extra side synergies. So I think like around 3, like 5, I would be able to kind of like predict that better. But I think we're gonna see like the first places get spread out quite a bit, because the level of the players is really good. But like I was saying in the pre-show, I legit think that EU has the strongest representation in this tournament. So in this lobby, I would say Lev D and Voltairix are probably the 2 strongest players. But that said, I think, you know, we could see that turn out very differently as well. On board with Bobe now from Korea as he goes up against Shoemaker.
I'm kind of looking forward to the Oboe comeback from behind again, where he just upsets the whole lobby. I think he could do it. Anything could happen in these tournaments, but yeah, I mean,
I mean, that's the thing with
It
the
would be
format for
exciting.
day 2 tomorrow, you know? Where it's like, if it's not just enough to be good and consistent, you have to get that first place as well. So, you know, Bobe, like, it took him a while to get to the point value to win the tournament for the Oceania finals. But, you know, he got there and he won it. So it's certainly possible. But I think he is an underdog. Like, no doubt, players like Obo are going to be underdogs in this tournament. They're going to have to really perform well. Because, you know, on the ladder, he's Grandmaster. He's not a challenger right now. So it's a bit of a mountain to climb for sure.
So I remember hearing that the Chinese server likes to play Star Guardian a lot, and I had been seeing a lot more Star Guardian players in NA as well, not just in my games, but in like higher elo games. So I was kind of surprised. Were you kind of surprised that no one played Star Guardian last game?
I was a little bit, because everyone is talking about how strong that comp is right now, and like Nico is like really, really crazy strong. So sometimes it can come down to the items, I guess. And sometimes it can come down to the Galaxy, but I know just Asia in general, like the Korean server, the Japanese server, the Chinese server, all those servers really have always liked playing Sorcerers and Star Guardians throughout Set 3. So I would be shocked if we didn't see it played a couple times here. We've got a little bit of a Vanguard Sork start for Bobe here, but we'll see. I do think the comp is really strong right now, though, so I feel like somebody's got to play it.
Yeah, because we saw, I think it was Chen slam the Dragon Claw on Jin, which I think is good in a Star Guardian lobby, but unfortunately there weren't very many in the last lobby.
That was confusing to me, yeah. But so when we look at Bobe's board right now, he could go a couple different directions with this. He could go Star Guardians out of this. He could also think about going something like Astro Snipers later, or even Vanguard Mystic, because Cassiopeia got that little buff in 10-18 just like a day ago. So, you know, there's a couple different directions, but I like the Syndra early, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good unit to carry those items, and I think blue buff and an AP item are so flexible right now that I feel like his start is looking super good, especially with the early Syndra.
You know,
yeah.
I would actually advocate putting the items on Ahri over Syndra at this point in the game. I know that sounds weird, but I think as far as the early rounds go, Ahri is actually going to get you more value because she's going to hit more targets quicker. And so oftentimes in these early rounds, she can outperform Syndra. As someone who's played like way too many Star Guardian games this season, this set. I actually like Ahri a little bit better at this point in the game specifically, like stage 2 and 3.
I was gonna say, I do know you've played a lot of Star Guardian, so I'm sure you know a lot better than I would. But I feel like later on, if you do want to move that blue buff onto a Janna or something, if you're playing Star Guardians, Syndra's an easier unit to find later on when you're higher level and you're finding those Jannas. So I just think Syndra's an easier unit to transition with, but for sure, if you're trying to save HP and play the strongest thing, maybe the Ahri is better.
Yeah, it kind of depends on what the angle is, really. And you're right, there's definitely risks with starting it out on the Ahri early on. You kind of have to be building like a reserve Ahri at the same time, you know, which feels kind of awkward. But we'll see. I'm curious where he's going to go with this. I feel like it's probably going to be Astro Snipers. That's the most logical place a lot of people would take this. But he is holding on to a couple protectors too, so he's leaving himself open for Star Guardians.
Yeah, and he's holding a bunch of Vanguards, so maybe even a Mystic Vanguard game, because they were telling me yesterday during rehearsals that Cassio's getting buffed. So I was curious if we would see more Cassio comps.
She got, like, I think her first, I think Cassio 1-star got buffed a little bit. I'm trying to remember what the patch note says exactly, but I still think the comp is good. It's like A+, it just might not be S. But,
man. Bobe just got the Syndra from an orb. Like, it's... Okay, sometimes when you're holding the 2 3-cost units, a pair of 3-cost units, you're just like, dang, do I have to sell it eventually for econ? But I don't know.
So
do you ever sell it? I don't, because I'm greedy, but I'm sure like it would be better to sell it in some cases. Oh, he has the 4 Vanguards, and he's looking so strong with the Fawn.
Yeah, like if he finds like a Cassiopeia 1, I would swap in a heartbeat, you know? But... yeah, being so close to a Syndra too, you hate having that gold sitting on your bench when you could be like, oh, I I could hit 30 into econ. I could sell the protectors and the Syndra, but I don't know. Oh, so all right.
Yeah, slamming
so
the Jeweled Gauntlet.
Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so he also had 6 Leonas, and I think I do think a problem that like newer players have is wanting to like super RNG that Leona 3, but a lot of like these higher elo players, they won't hold on to it just because 1, it's unlikely to hit without rolling, and 2, it's not really going to add too much value to your board later on. So he just got rid of the extra Leona 2. It was good early though, and he hits the Syndra 2 on turn 2 so easily, naturally.
Yeah, if I was Bobe right now, I'd be feeling pretty good because this is a strong start. I mean, he's down at 7th in the lobby, but you know, for those of you who maybe haven't watched as much TFT, like it's okay to drop a little bit lower. You have to kind of think of your hit points as like another resource, right? Where in order to set up wins later, sometimes you can spend HP, if that makes any sense, because that helps you get higher priority on the carousel. Lost streaking can bring in extra gold, so it's not the end of the world being this low. It's a little bit lower than you'd prefer at this point, but it's not the worst thing ever, you know. But now things should be a little bit stronger, I'd say.
Yeah, I think he's gonna streak from here. He has the Nautilus 2 already, the Mordekaiser 2, and he could honestly he could transition to Astro Sniper super easily from here as well with the bow for Jin later on, and the Nautilus 2 makes it so easy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, just find the Bard or a Gnar or something like that along with that Teemo.
So I was told that the Korean region is a lot more aggressive. So like NA or EU players that watch Twitch streams would have heard of Polt, and Polt is known to be a very aggressive leveler.
Yeah.
Almost never has econ. But I actually haven't seen that very much from Bobe so far, because we had some rehearsal matches yesterday, and it didn't seem like he was being super aggressive with his leveling. So I wonder if he's gonna be pulling out some of the Korean playstyle, I guess. Later on during this tournament.
I'm curious because I mean I think Polt's kind of almost in a league of his own, but that aggressive leveling style seems to be a lot more popular over there, like you said. And when I casted the China versus NA tournament earlier this year, they were doing a lot of that as well. It was a lot of really aggressive leveling. So it just seems like it's like there's the NA meta and there's the EU meta, which are fairly close, and then there's the Asia meta, which is the Korean, Japanese, and Chinese servers. And even though there's not a lot of like cross-play between those servers, they trend towards the same sort of style as far as like lower econ, higher leveling, more aggression, you know. But it's interesting because that's always been one of the big questions, right, Becca, where it's like, you know, whose style of econ is better, NA or like NAEU or Asia, you know? And I think we're going to see a little bit more insight into that this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you think about it statistically, having a lot of money means you're more likely to hit the things you want. But I think when people are more aggressive with their gold and using it early, it really messes with the plans of people who want to go for the late game. So
yeah, in
NA, I think, or in one region, people adapt and like will play in the way that most people are playing just because they can. So like in NA, more people will econ because they're allowed to, because other people aren't really using their money. But because it's a tournament with really different metas, people are forced to adapt and maybe have to roll early. So I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to see it have an effect throughout this tourney.
I think it will. Like, part of it is it's so hard to prepare if you're these players, right? Because there's not as much info out there about all of the different regions and things like that. So you're kind of like learning as you go along.
Yeah, I agree. So
right,
I think we saw another Star Guardian player, but now are we looking at it from the perspective of Hajti?
Yeah. So Hajti from Brazil is who we're checking out right now. He's playing against Obo from Australia. And what has he got going on? So it's looks like it's a little bit of a rebel infiltrator right now. Okay, so he may be trending towards a rebels comp. It looks like. I want to see his like whole board when it's not dead. So we'll wait for that.
Yeah, that was such a big loss though. We just switched over to him and he took a huge loss. It's a caster curse.
Caster curse. No. Yeah, looks like okay. So, interesting. So he's kind of trending towards Rebels right now, but maybe he sort of wants to go Blade Masters. He has the RFC.
Yeah, but also with the Alawi in the backline.
Yeah.
Do you think he's just trying to preserve the Alawi because of the battle cast buff, or do you think there are just a lot of infiltrators in the lobby? No, it didn't look like it. So I wonder how I'd keep the Alawi so far back.
Yeah, I'm a little bit puzzled by that as well, because you're not super worried about the Yasuo getting grabbed by Blitzcrank most cases.
Yeah,
so.
because there is a Yasuo behind Ziggs.
Right. So yeah, I agree. I'm a little bit confused why he's got the Alawi all the way in the back. But this seems like the classic case of finding a lot of 2-stars early on, win streaking, and then not really having a strong compositional plan and starting to kind of like loss streak after that, which is the phase he's entering in now, right? Where other mid-game comps are coming online, and he doesn't really have the strongest mid-game comp, even though he has 4 2-stars. So he's going to need to swap it up for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so we did see Achen with a Cinder 2 as well. And Bobe with the Cinder 2. Both the Cinder 2s in the lobby.
Yeah.
We were talking about that briefly, but with more people playing Star Guardians, do you think that carries... the value of carries holding GA goes up a lot with Syndra perhaps like preventing the Syndra from one-shotting your carry?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think GA always gets more important in a meta where there's one-shot potential, right? So when we saw a lot of Jin comps and we saw a lot of like infiltrator comps, you know, back then like GA was a lot more important, right? Because you needed you could probably plan on your carry dying, and then so you needed them to come back and continue carrying. So yeah, I think GA does rise in popularity during those types of metas.
Yeah, okay, do you remember when infiltrators were super popular and everyone had to have...
I do.
Oh man, even set 1, everyone would have like a GA on their Draven. Oh,
yep,
Draven.
That's right. Oh man, Draven. Yeah, we're going way back. We're going back to the Imperial synergies.
Yeah.
That was a fun set. Give me my 6 Yordle, 60% dodge comps again.
Oh no, don't bring it back the Yordles, please, no.
Yep, those were good times. Those are good times. Not many people would agree, but we had fun, you know.
Alrighty.
And so
he already has 6 rebels in, yeah.
Yeah, so 6 rebels, but I have been asked to inform you, and it is my pleasure to inform you that we will have Crowan joining us from Cloud9, top-tier TFT player. Unfortunately, that also means that Primal is having a little bit of internet issues. He dropped out, but we've got Crowan subbing in to get back to the TriCast. And Crowan, can you hear me? Are you out there?
Hello, I can.
Hey,
how are you guys doing?
Doing good. Watching Hazti try to put together this Rebels comp. So, Crowan, you are a TFT tournament veteran. You've been in a lot this year.
Wait. He's a TFT tournament god.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
This dude he's made it to the final
Becca.
lobby of like nearly everything that's been out there. So, going into an event like this, like how do you think the players are doing mentality wise?
Oh man, I mean, some of these players, it's their first time competing in something this large, probably for a lot of these players, so it is a lot of pressure coming from that mindset. I am really, really impressed from what we've seen so far, particularly with Voltaria, because like we saw an insane amount of game sense and awareness, you know, in picking up that Irelia last game, so I'm really excited to keep watching him, but for now, we are on Hajti, and I was doing a little bit of research actually coming to this event, and I know that Hajti almost seems to crutch on going for Rebels Jinx. Like, it's definitely a very high preference there. We saw that he was losing some rounds in the early game because of trying to get to this point. And now that he has gotten the Jinx, has gotten the 6 Rebels, we'll see how well he stabilizes from here.
Yeah, it seems like the later the game goes, the more he's going to need to find that gangplank as well. You know, if you want to get like a top 2. Otherwise, would it seem accurate to you that generally Rebels Jinx is like maybe a top 4 comp, but not usually a top 2 comp unless you get that really strong GP at the end?
Yeah, definitely. If you have Jinx with triple items that are good and have that GP, hopefully at tier 2 at that point, will it be winning lobbies? I think Gangplank is crucial at that point, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about Rebels at the moment, Becca?
I love Rebels. I just think it's really funny that there's like Ezreal in one comp with Ace Hill, so there's just like bunch of mana drain, and then you can just build like you can build Shrouds, and then these people just can't cast. But I also feel like like you said, it's like a top 4 comp. Unless you get like the GP2 and the ASL 2, and even then you just like have to sweat the positioning a lot, and you can't even be super flexible with the positioning with Rebels without losing a lot of value. So yeah, it's not the best. But I do like the RFC on Jinx. It helps her get through units like Shen, units like if she gets Graves blinded, she can still hit. And if there's like a Jin, she doesn't have to move 10 million steps to do damage to the Jin. So I do like the RFC.
Oh, I agree so much. I think that RFC on Jinx is a lot of the time a make or break in round wins. And as you said as well, I think it's a good point. The GP, being that difference between the top 4 and winning lobbies, but positioning wise, like you can't readjust your positioning late game as Rebels very quickly. So if someone just tries to slap a shroud at the last second, like you're not gonna be able to dodge that in time. So there's really only so much you can do if someone's specifically trying to counter you as the Rebel composition there.
Yeah, you know what's the worst?
Yeah, you can see him swapping now, but it's tough to make that transition.
It was a quick swap, but
that was really
you can
fast.
swap a shroud even quicker.
That is very true.
Yeah,
it's only
the worst
one unit.
is when they just stick the Gnar in front of your Rebels and the whole team's just flipped into the team of shrooms. That's like one of the most frustrating things playing against the Gnar, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the tribulations of playing Rebels here. Oh, Calcifer! Ooh, he's still alive. Yeah. All right, Calcifer still in it for the moment. Representative from Colombia in the tournament here, but narrowly surviving, not a 2 HP. And Achen from China down to 36. So dropping pretty fast, but unfortunately it looks like Calcifer is going to be our fast top 8 here.
That's a very scary position to be in. At 2 HP the round before Arc Raptors, you could even lose before that point where you're maybe waiting on the items to help bring you back into the game. So definitely a little bit of struggle in that early to mid game to get to that point, because it's very, very rare that, especially in a tournament format with very, very strong players, that we're going to see someone drop at this point.
Yeah, you don't see players drop before Rebels very often. It happens to all of us, but still, that's pretty rare. Oh, here we go, Becca. Achen playing Star Guardian Sorks. So there you go. But the items on Nico are not as great as you would hope. The Warmogs is good, but the Bramble Vest not as useful these days. So this one, you can tell why he's kind of down towards the bottom right now, unfortunately.
If you are watching the bottom screen with Calcifer, I'm always rooting for the person with low HP because I want them to be my anime protagonist. So let's go, Calcifer. Let's go.
It's got to go Super Saiyan, man. Time to unlock.
Yeah, but he gets
instinct.
the creeps. He can really upgrade here with some items. I'm excited. Let's go.
Yeah, well, he's got the Shaco again, and if I recall, he was playing Shaco carry in game number 1 as well. If I'm remembering right.
Yeah, perhaps so. Oh, yeah, you are right, actually. I wrote that down as a little note there. I'm curious, if possible, to check out Calcifer's perspective after this round to see exactly how long he'll be able to hang on for. At this point, as a player in this position, you have to spend all of your gold to stabilize, or maybe you want to greed it out so that you can not only just try to get a 7th instead of an 8th, but try to get for that top 4 instead. And looking at Calcifer right now, spending all that gold, going to 8, and is probably going to roll down the rest here. Like, you need to stabilize. There's some good items here between the Shaco and the Jin. Doesn't hit the 6 Dark Stars yet, but has hit the Wukong too. So in a really good spot here, I think, to hold on for at least a few more rounds.
Yeah, with the Wukong too. Yeah, because he needs frontline so that his Dark Stars can actually die and get damage. So I'm pretty excited.
I like the last minute swaps as well. Like, sometimes you look at that and you're like, oh, why are they doing it? There's 8 players in the lobby. But just making those changes just keeps people on their toes when they're trying to plan against who they have the likelihood of playing against. But, oh no, Shaco, take the wheel. Can he do it?
Masters.
Yeah, GA on Jin helps too.
Still up, right? Yeah.
There we go. Dude, GA on Jin saved him.
Yeah. That's the difference, leveling up, hitting those upgrades, rolling down, like saved Calcifer there. We'll look over at Obo. Obo's just econing up. 50 gold, is going for that Master E3, so he'll be strong later, but fortunately for Calcifer, I ran into him now as opposed to that point where he would have hit the E3.
Yep.
Yeah, the match RNG does come into account when you're playing this late game. It's just you have to play against them before they hit, especially comps like Yi. You don't want to play against them after he hits the E3.
Right. Yeah, it really is only the Guardian Angels that are going to save you in that situation too, because you know Yi is going to kill your whole team at least once, but can he kill it twice? That's the question.
Is the question,
Yeah.
indeed. Calcifer going up against Voltario here, and that is a tier 2 Jinx, so pretty strong. And the Jin actually gets hooked by the Blitzcrank there, so that's
Oh,
not
that was
looking
a
good for
big
Calcifer.
gnarl.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but Shaco, he can do it. If anyone can 1v5, 1v6, definitely Shaco.
He got it, I
and
think.
those are, I would
Yeah.
say, those are probably perfect items on Shaco. Would you agree?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure. Best
It
items on
helps
I like
him
Shaco.
when
There's a little bit of
damage
more
the
than-
whole fight. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I think there is a little bit of discussion around the RFC. I know some players prefer not to have RFC and have another damage item instead, maybe a Hodge or something. But personally,
Yeah.
I do like the RFC a lot on Shaco. It can allow him to always get that damage in wherever needed. I was a little scared for Calcifer that fight because the Jin got hooked by the Blitzcrank. Like Calcifer is repositioning very fast, but not really scouting that much in the lobby, just kind of hoping. So did get punched by Blitzcrank, but Shaco's a pretty good unit, so not punished enough.
So Obo hits the Yasuo 3, the Z2, and the Fizz 2, and the Z3. Okay, so Obo is popping off right now in his roll down on the right side of the screen. Lev D coming in to try to knock Calcifer out here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you have not too much time to make your decisions and scout, you just kind of have to randomly position based on what you had been seeing. Aw,
Yeah.
unfortunate.
That
Calcifer does
is
fall in
that.
8th there.
So jumping over to Lev D Trotsky's view here, another one of our EU powerhouse representatives. Lev D has had some pretty decent tournament results throughout the year. Obviously, good results in the EU qualifiers that got him here, but he's been a strong ladder player all year as well too. And I think a player that's kind of flown under the radar a little bit for a lot of NA, but he prefers cybernetics, as you can see. He's played it 2 games in a row now. And he's just, I think, quite good at positioning. So definitely a threat in this tournament.
So I asked the EU players for information on other EU players, right? And they wouldn't give me
Always a
any
good idea.
information on Lev D, besides that he doesn't check his Discord messages and that he almost was disqualified from Worlds because he didn't check. And that's all I got. That's all the info I got from the other players.
I talked to him. I've talked to him pretty frequently over the last few months. He was on an episode of my show Galaxy Brain as well to kind of break down his play style. But he definitely does keep to himself a little bit more than some of the other players. I asked him like how he was feeling going into today, and he said that he normally wears contacts, but his eyes hurt, so he's wearing glasses today, so it's hard to see. And that was his info for me. And I'm like, oh, thanks. I hope your eyes feel better. But yeah, he's
that
great.
pretty
though.
much
He's
goes
good.
along with what people say about him, for sure.
That's what's on your mind sometimes, you know.
Yeah, that checks out. But also going back to just Lev D being a very consistent tournament player. Oh man, knocks out Obo
Goodbye,
there.
Obo.
So those Blade Masters that were looking so strong were not strong enough. But Lev D's performed really well in tournaments that I've noticed throughout the entire year, and maybe still with that has flown under the radar a little bit. I think if you going to ask who are the top European players, before this event, people might throw out some other names first, but Lev D has always been one who's impressed me, so I'm excited that he's doing pretty well in this game. Is low HP, but can still hang on and maybe be a top placer to move on to tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, he does have the good items on Vayne. He does have the Echo too. There is a Jinx player, and I feel... Okay, so when you're playing against Jinx with an Echo, it feels so good when she's already, been excited. But, man, I don't know. Sometimes she's not excited, and then they still win the round.
Jinx has had different levels of being excited throughout the different patches, but I would say she's like 75 to 80% excited as far as her usefulness in the game right now. So it's pretty good.
It's probably a good
Hajj
number
taking
there.
a big loss though.
Yeah, the Jinx only has an RFC there from Hajj, I believe, so you're gonna need some more damage items in the Jinx for it to actually be able to, get excited and carry those rounds, but items just are kind of lacking there. We saw another elimination there, actually, Shoemaker going out in 6, so we are nearing our top 4 of this lobby. It's getting kind of close.
certainly starting to type out or to tighten up a little bit. That's for sure. Volterix is the player that we're going to check out, down to 4 HP, the winner of game number 1, fighting for survival here, and deciding to go for Rebels. So, you know, Volterix is a very flexible player. I've seen some Rebels games recently on his profile, but it's like we were talking about, where it's just not the strongest comp, and has even got things like the Sword Breaker on Jinx. So I don't think these items are terrible. Like Runin's red buff is good. Swordbreaker is an interesting adaptation, and I think it is good against Blade Master players, but it's just not going to be... It feels like maybe a top 4 board, but definitely not a top 1 board.
It's maybe a top 1 if one more Gnar is found here, because has that Nico's help to get that
right.
tier 3, but is not going to get that, unfortunately. This could be the end for Voltario going into this round, and yeah, goes up against Levdi's Cybernetics Ghost. That Vayne's so strong.
Yeah, so at least he's playing a Ghost here, but see if he's able to take it out. That's also a pretty strong Aurelia, too. And one of the nice things about Cybernetics on the Super Dense Galaxy is you can use the Force of Nature to activate that Cybernetics buff, but man, that Vayne is just going to kill it, it looks like.
Oh no, the Vayne
so
tumble
close
at the end there. Man. Voltario
Well,
actually gets a 4th, though.
Top 4! Alright, we take those.
It's always a good feeling when you're able to scrape out a top 4 barely in terms of just 3 HP at this point. Voltario, going back to just him playing so flexible in game number 1, you know, maybe was that a sort of high roll? We know he got that Victor 3, played super flexible, but here he played a more standard composition in Rebels, and it didn't do quite as good. You know, top 4 is still a top 4, so props to him for that, but be curious to see his placements in the next couple of games. But checking out Bobe here with some Star Guardian, something that I think the Korean region players do like running a lot.
Yeah, Becca and I were kind of wondering earlier when we would see this in the tournament, because the comp is so strong right now. It's too bad Primal dropped out, because I know this is one of his favorite comps as well. He just released another a guide for the newer version of this on YouTube. He was one of the original people that kind of really figured out this comp, I think, back in the early days of set 3, and it's strong. As you can see, Levdi out in 3rd. All right, and Hatsin nearly out. That was almost a double kill there.
Yeah,
look like Bobe might take 1st here.
Hashti is Cybers, right? He's playing Cybers against Star Guardian. It's one of the worst matchups for him.
Rebels, I believe Hashti was.
Oh, he was playing...
yeah.
Oops, my bad.
Not going to do him any favors either way, though.
Yeah.
As it's looking good for Bobe. That Nico is going to be able to survive, get big stuns, carry, and then, you know, Syndra can literally just one-shot the Jinx on the other side. So
it's still a rumble there, not a Gangplank for Hajta, so that's going to be a huge factor going to this round. And the Jinx gets... Oh, no, not the Jinx gets Zephyr. Sorry, the Jinx has Zephyr.
Oh, he's Zephyr the Zed, which is also kind of annoying to deal with here.
I think Bobe is playing 9 units when he has like 10 slots, but he just wanted to be able to use the Zephyr. He just sold the Xin to play the Zephyr.
Yeah, plenty.
That was a really fast last minute play.
Yeah, Bobe from South Korea winning game number 2. And that's big because, again, he came into this. We were looking at some of the players talking earlier before the games began, and he said he wanted to leave a legacy in TFT. He knew, you know, the strength of South Korea as a region in esports. So there is some responsibility there. You know, when your region has like 3, 4, I think it is now, world championships in League of Legends. You've got players like Faker coming from your region. You know, there's a lot to live up to if you're an esports pro. So especially in a game that's in the League of Legends client like TFT. So yeah, it's got to feel good to get a win there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And with Star Guardians, I mean, we see the power of it there. It's coming into today, you know, being one of the most looked at compositions that players are going to run. Pobe right there demonstrated how powerful it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, how brave is it to sell the Xin, to not have the extra unit on the board? Well, actually, I guess against something like Rebels, it helps Jinx not pop off earlier because it's a slightly weaker unit, but still.
I think it's great, but I do agree, Becca, that it's a player that it's a play that you wouldn't see a lot of players make. It seems counterintuitive, right? Because you're quote unquote making your board weaker, but getting that other unit out of the way on their side with the Zephyr ends up being a net gain. So just the kind of heads up player you'd expect from, you know, one of the top players in the world, right?
Yeah.
I agree.
it's a calculated risk, and I mean the risk I don't think was necessary there, but did end up working out for Pobe there.
Yeah. So just a couple other highlights from this game. Looking at a couple of views from Chen, who I believe finished a little bit lower in this particular one. Not quite the results he was looking for, but that happens.
Yeah, and man, these Blade Masters from Obo here as well. Obo had rolled down so much gold and had not found any more Master Yis. Probably some of them being taken by the Rebel players, actually, because if Obo had been able to get Master Yi 3, that could have been a completely different game there.
Totally agree. I think that's we had like 2 other Rebel players in there, so that does take a lot of Master Yis out of the pool. So just kind of a rough round to go for Blade Masters. But that's what happens. You know, you need to really be aware of what other people are playing and be ready to pivot around that. You know.
Yeah, exactly, and maybe that's actually going to be a little bit rough for Hajte if he tries to keep going this Rebel composition. It's something that you know, based off of his recent ladder match history, definitely likes. If that's contested, maybe it would be not great for the Blade Master players in the lobby.
Yeah. So it looks like I'm gonna step out for this next game. I'll be back later, but it was a ton of fun.